Hi, Jill Tisbury here from Fired Glass. Welcome to the first in a set of 3 videos where we look at making these beautiful fish. So this was a commission that my husband John asked for, and it's installed in our kitchen as a lovely shoal of, well, mackerel. They're actually based on mackerel because there's some stunning colours and they look fabulous when the light's shining on them, and you get beautiful reflections as well as beautiful fish. So in this first video we're going to look at cutting out the mackerel shape. In the second video we're going to look at how we actually make the fish themselves, and in the third video we're going to look at how you mount them or how you install them in wherever you're going to put them. Alright, let's look at how we cut these things out. So I'll just get my sheet of glass here, and one that I did in Blue Peter style. So this is one that I've cut out already, and I've actually cut this out by hand. I wanted to show you a number of techniques. First of all, cutting out by hand. Secondly, perhaps using a ring saw. And I also wanted to talk about grinding them, because although I've cut this by hand, you may just be able to see on the edges here that this, it's okay, it's not too bad, but there's a few little nicks on the edges that I want to grind off. The other thing is that mackerel have this distinctive shape to their tail. Now, to be perfectly honest, you could get away with this, so I haven't done anything on any mechanical machine here. I've just cut all of this by hand, so you could get away with the tail being that shape if you wanted to, and you're not too worried about it you know, absolutely replicating the tail of a mackerel. So that would be good to go. And if you don't have a grinder, you could also use diamond pads to perhaps just smooth the edge out on here, because all you're going to do when we make these is embellish them with the powder and the frit on top of here, and that's it. It's just a single 3mm sheet of glass, so you want a nice smooth edge to begin with, so that when you fire them it's going to round out that edge. So this is my blank. So how do I get to this? I have a number of templates, because we decided that if we were going to have a shoal of fish, we wanted different sizes on there. So I've got some smaller ones, I've got some bigger ones, and also with different sort of tail shapes on there. So when you look at the glass, this is 3mm bullseye, 3mm Tector, and I can obviously get quite a few fish out of one sheet. I've already got one there. I'm going to cut a couple more just to show you some techniques. So I have simply dropped this on here, drawn around it with a Sharpie. The Sharpie burns off in the kiln, but you can clean it off if you prefer to do that. And you can see you can get quite close together on them. Also, I don't really want to waste the edge of this. You could cut that straight if you wanted to, but I'm actually going to follow this curve because the piece that's left would make a great piece for a wave project. So let's look at cutting this out by hand first of all then. So I've got my cutter. I'm probably going to stand up for this because it's easier when you're overhead to put the right pressure on it and keep control of the cutter. So in here, this is actually one of the cutters that you can put oil in the middle. I tend to put oil in my pot down here, so I'm just dipping that in there to make sure the head's oiled. And I'm going to stand up and I'm going to start here. I'm going to go all the way along here, and I want one nice fluid movement. So let's start at this end. You can start either end, it makes no difference, but I'm going to start at that end. I want a nice fluid movement. All the way to the end. So we've got a lovely score on there, not that you can see it because it's actually right on that Sharpie line. So I'm going to turn this over sit back down for this bit. And on the end of your cutter, you've got a little brass button, little brass knob on there. So what you want to do is we're going to tap this. Rather than me using running pliers on this, I'm going to tap this so that it breaks. So I'm going to apply pressure on here. And you can see almost immediately that this has started to run. And in fact, all I needed was a couple of taps and there you go. So we've got a lovely, lovely, smooth and flowing cut on the edge of that. So maybe there's a bit that I would grind off because there's a little bit of a shard on there that I don't want. But I'm quite happy with that. So that's my first cut done. And it also leaves me with this piece that I'm going to put to one side. I'm going to use for a wave project. So let's pop that over there. Okay, so one thing I didn't say to you is I'm cutting, if you're familiar with Tecta, you'll know it's got a rough side and it's got a smooth side. So I'm cutting on the smooth side because it just makes it easier for me to do that. So I'm going to do this cut next, along here. So same thing, now stand up, get myself positioned, pop the cutter on. Nice and smooth, right off at the end. Turn it over again, press, this, I don't know if you can see this, but you probably just about catch, it's right on the line, that sort of silvery shadow that tells you that this cut is running all the way through. You can just see it here actually. I don't know if I'm run at the other end, so let's just, there we go. If I turn that over you can possibly see that. If this hasn't broken, then you can get yourself a pair of Grosing pliers like this and simply grab hold and pull. Hopefully, I'm just going to turn that over again. Just make sure that's run all the way. It hasn't quite. Ah, there you go. Ah, there we are. Okay, so we've now got one fish and a tail section that we need to cut out. So as I mentioned before, my cutting skills are okay, but if I went into there and then out, because this is a V shape, that's going to encourage that to run that way. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go as close as I can. If anybody's got any tips on this, that would be useful. Oh, look, there you go. So if that happens, that's not too bad. It's actually just gone straight off over there as opposed to on that run. So when I do this on the grinder, I can actually grind that edge off there. So there you go. So I'll put that to one side. I'm going to do the same with this, but I'm going to actually show you how to cut this bit on a ring saw if you've got a ring saw for that. Let's do that again. So you want to be careful with these because this is quite an angle on this. So if you prefer to, you could just take that angle off when you're cutting, just to be safe. And you could grind that part off with your grinder. Run all the way along there. Let's turn it over. That should almost pull apart. Let's just make sure that's run everywhere. Give it a pressure. There we go. So that's taken that first curve off. Let's do the second one. You can see that silver just running along there. And there we go, that pulls off. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit out of this. Just pull that off. Not quite run all the way to the edge there, so it's just there we are. And now I can finesse that edge. So I quite like cutting these by hand because you do get nice smooth edge on these for the most part. Alright, so if you don't have a grinder, then you can gently take this curve out and use the Grosing pliers to take that out. I prefer to do it on a grinder because, as I say, I'm not an expert in cutting. It's getting better, but I'm sure there are people out there who are complete experts in that. So rather than waste it, I'd rather use my grinder at the moment. Okay, let's go and have a look at cutting the tail sections of some of the V-shapes on a ring saw. It is me under here, with this lovely mask on. This is a revelation of lockdown for me, that face shields make perfect, obviously a perfect shield for when you're using a ring saw or when you're using a grinder. These things, finger stalls that you can get at most stationery shops, are really good for protecting your fingers when you're pushing the glass, because obviously the glass is sharp cut edges here, and when you're pushing it against a blade on a ring saw or against the grind wheel on a grinder, you don't really want to be shredding the end of your fingers. So I am going to take this section out of here. Don't know if you can see that against there. Let's pop it on there. So this section here I'm going to take out using the ring saw, just to show you that you know, it's one of the other ways that you can cut this. You're not going to hear very much when I put the ring saw on, so I'm going to move the shield. This should stay downwards. This should stay downwards, but I'm actually going to put that up so that you can see what's going on here. Okay, so I've finished. I don't know if you can see that against my glove there. I shall pop it there. So I finished that. You can see I've got quite a complex cut there. I actually want to get rid of that nodule, so I'm going to do that on the grinder, and I'm probably going to finish the ends of the tails off on the grinder as well. To be honest, what I did forget to say is that often when we're cutting with this, especially if you've got a Sharpie line, you need to put something like Vaseline or lip salve. I actually use lip salve on mine. I usually let it dry overnight. But for a small cut like that, I could really remember where the shape was going, so I didn't really need it. So that's it. So we've taken that bit off. I'm going to grind the nose to a round shape as well when I use the grinder. Right, I've cut all the pieces out on the ring saw, so I'm happy. Let's just pop that over one side. I'm happy with this and the other one that I've just put to one side. Not so happy with him because, as you can see, his tail's a little bit poorly, so we need to make it look more like this. So we're going to do a little bit of work on the grinder. With the grinder, I've just put this platform on top, which allows me to use the smaller part of the grind head, which is this bit here. So when I switch this on, the water, there's a water reservoir just under here. The water comes up through here and you'll see a stream of water which is actually cooling the grinding head as I grind. So good to go. So let's turn this on. Okay, so there's a lot better shape to the tail there. I'm very happy with that. What I'm going to do now is take this platform off, and for all the fish that I've got, I'm just going to grind around the edges to take any nodules off and any little shards like this here. You can probably see, I don't know if you can catch that, but there's a few shards there and I don't want to catch my fingers when I'm making the fish. Glad to get that off. Okay, so fish are finished. We've cut them, we've ground them, and I'm happy with the blanks. Just need to clean them up and dust them off and get ready for part 2 of the video, which is when we're going to show you how to put the colour on the fish. So I hope you found that useful. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified of any other videos, and don't forget, leave us comments about how you'd perhaps cut them out, or any tips and tricks that you have for cutting out shapes like this. But good to see you again in part 2. Thanks very much.